Okay. Let's see how this goes today. I have been messing around with the sound. So if the volume on my voice is off, it could be louder, it could be quieter, I don't know. So I've been testing it, it sounds fine to me. If you're there and you are able to tell me, that would be great. Okay. First, hi Kenny. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Working, but all fine. Good. All fine is great. Me? I'm okay overall. I may sound, I'm a little stuffy, so I apologize. I will try to make sure I don't sneeze or anything on the microphone. But overall, I'm okay. I've been trying to balance this audio for about 2.5 hours, and I don't like listening to myself, so it's incredibly difficult to sit here and listen and keep testing. So we'll see. But the cloud lift is in place, so the volume should be fine. I've tinkered with the balance, so yeah. I think I'm going to do Quarkus project on work. Let's see how fast I nail it. Little staging with CI/CD. Nice. The first time your volume is loud enough. Yeah, I put the cloud lifter in place and I've boosted it a little bit and I've tried to balance it out with the settings. Is I'm using the VST plugin. And the VST plugin, I use Subtract, which means that I have to do it every single time I stream. I'm relying upon noise cancellation from the Go XLR because coming through the Go XLR, if I try and put that through Crisp, which is my normal noise cancellation thing, it doesn't work. It's just totally, it just all of a sudden went super quiet and I have no idea how to tweak it. So, what else has changed? Also, new monitor. I picked up a new monitor, another new monitor, because obviously the stream was looking kind of strange because it was a simple string, a band across the screen, because of the other resolution. So I picked up a 2560 by 1440 monitor, which means that the resolution of the stream output is the monitor. So that should improve things. Only thing that is a bit off is the dynamics is a bit. Yeah, I've been trying to tweak things, but I don't know what I'm listening for. That's the problem. So I'm not able to tune it based upon what is sounding good because I don't like the sound of my voice. So I'm just saying random words and not able to test it. I've also used the VST plugin with Subtract, which means that it will cut certain things out because I've drank coffee or I've made a background sound to see if it will, because it will gate that out for me, right? But it does mean that it changes the range on all the frequencies so that I will sound a little flatter. Yeah, because no, I'm not going to mess around with that. If I'm audible and you can, I sound okay. And also I am stuffy as well, which is not going to help me balance anything. So, yeah. We'll leave it as is. The audio volume is fine. It looks like I'm peaking every now and then up into the red. So I think we'll be okay. Let me just click on pups because yeah, snowed up. It's pretty cold today. Yeah. It's fine enough, but when you want to tune off the stream, try to get a bit of range into your voice again. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I bet if I turn off the VST plugin, it would return almost immediately. Or I could default the GoXLR now. And it might return a little bit. So I bet it's the VST plugin because again, it captures all the sound happening in the background, right? And it cuts the pieces out. So it's cutting all the across the entire frequencies. It's cutting down all the peaks and stuff. So that's what's flattening it out, I would imagine. But it's my voice, so it's flat anyway. Yeah. I'll give it a go after the stream. Okay, so I'm gonna return to water, drink water today, purely because it's something we didn't do 2 days of this week, and also the other stuff is a little heavier right this second because I need to do a bit of a refactoring again. But I can discuss what it means to do that in this actual project and demonstrate the problem. So we have an account object, right? And we'll get to migrations in a little bit, right? We have an account object. That account object is used to retrieve data from the database. But when we pull that object, we kind of have an expectation of how we want it to function, right? You know, and this is the challenge with doing the things the way we've done, or the way I've done the other project, right? I've created these models as having kind of the domain events triggering from them, which gives me a lot of flexibility, and I like that idea, right? So we have something like iDomain event, public interface, how to forget how to code. That has nothing on it because it's just a notification. And we have public class event base, something like that, or entity base, sorry. And in here we have protected void registered domain event or something like that, right? And it takes an iDomain event. So it takes the T event, domain event, right? Yeah, that'll do. Thank you. Right. And then in here it has its own list of domain events, right? This returns just do the code for me, please. That would be helpful. Thank you. Right. So we're not using event sorting here. We're using kind of faux aggregates, I suppose. They're not really. We're not fully in the world of domain-driven design, but we're not fully in the other world either, right? So we're not just standard objects and whatnot. So the problem lies in now we want to say, okay, public static void create, right? And we say this takes a string name, string email, string password, right? And we now need a private constructor. I didn't think I'd do that. That takes the same parameters, right? And we set name equals name, password equals password, email equals email, right? And in here we say var result account equals new account, name, email, password. Then we do, yeah, that was just fine for me. Can't create event, we'll go into that in a minute. And this needs to be a instance base. Hey, daughter. How you doing? So, and that's an iDomain event. So an account. Right. So the purpose of this is to try and start encapsulating this behavior into these methods so that if we need to update the email, there'd be a similar method for update email. And that way, the changes on this component always trigger an event. Right? But while this looks like this, that's not always possible. You could actually have someone come along and change an email and never know about it. Right? So how do you guard against that? Don't forget, this is the entity that comes in and out of Entity Framework. So it took me down a path, right? So I actually have a public int ID, public date time, date added, and public date time last updated. Useful things on all entities, right? That have changes. So what do I do? Right? I don't want, so in this instance, someone could just say, okay, well, we'll worry about the errors afterwards when I put this back. Someone could say, okay, well, just create an account, right? And now the private constructor prevents that from happening. So you can't just create an account, but you can create an account and then set these values afterwards, right? So if you pull this out of the database, you can set password on that value, on that object, right? So how do you protect against this? So I was watching a video by Julia Lerman. Now, Julia Lerman works a lot with Steve Smith on doing domain-driven design stuff. Right? They've done courses on Pluralsight and all sorts of things. So there's plenty out there. So the suggestion is this. What we do is create private string name, right? Private string email, private string password, right? Now, the challenge here is this never gets set, right? But we'll pretend like it's going to, right? You don't want the password to come out necessarily. Oh, I suppose you do. Yeah, you do. You do want it to come out, right? But so what we change is this, right? So that we make these getters. Okay, awesome. We need to remove that because that's already there. Now these can't do that, so now these need to use the internal, the private internal ones, right? Right, and these methods, we'll get to that. No, you can't, is the answer. And I'll explain why in a second. So we need to do the same on this, right? Private int ID, and this is the refactoring I've got to do on the main project, right? If I'm going to commit to this, I have to do this. Private date time. Yeah, date added. Just date added, and last updated. So for anyone joining, it looks like there are several people in. I am working on a project that is viewer. It is a viewer project. Basically, a project we can work on as a stream. I should be able to do water. That's the project. The code is up in GitHub in the GitHub right now. Dev Victor Patel, thank you very much for following. Appreciate it. Welcome. this is a project, right now I'm putting the building blocks in for, but eventually once we get up and running with a basic structure, we'll accept some pull requests and kind of use it as a discussion application, demonstrator application for techniques or practices, and people can kind of know what we're talking about because we have a shared domain. Welcome. Don't get many views from Brazil, I don't believe. Oh, welcome. I've been interested in looking at the metrics on where viewership comes from. It's mainly towards Europe. So this is Water Drink Water. What I'm doing right now, though, is demonstrating a design challenge when you are trying to use an object to be not only the data entity that comes in and out of Entity Framework, but also is the entity on which you perform events. I need to go do something really quick. I need to go and take out a garbage can. I will be right back. My apologies. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. It all of a sudden dawned on me that I hadn't actually taken the garbage can, the recycle can down to the street. Can I tell you about the difference between Rider and Visual Studio? I mean, obviously, Rider is a new IDE. If you work in any other of the IntelliJ IDEs, it's a very familiar environment. I also use Data Grip. And again, you can see Data Grip, the database stuff, looks very familiar. So for me, it really is a familiarity thing. It is pretty fast. Visual Studio has got much faster because tools like this have come along and given them more of a competition. But also Visual Studio is carrying a lot more weight. These tools are very focused on the languages they work with. There's like PHP Storm, WebStorm. PHP Storm is focused solely on PHP, right? So the IDE is specialized. Why are you using Data Grip as standalone when you've been integrating Redder? Because I like the projects aspect. I actually do like creating projects inside of Data Grip and having them dedicated inside of here. I know that I can use the tooling in Rider the same way, but I don't like having the database stuff inside of here. I will always instinctively Alt-Tab anyway. Yeah. Things like Kafka, I don't mind in here. I have the Kafka connector in here, so I can view where topics are. But yeah, pretty much have Data Grip as maybe that's just the way I've evolved as a developer, right? I've spent most of my time in SQL Studio. So Data Grip is just SQL Studio. Everyone should drink water. Right now I'm drinking a cup of coffee. I do have water there though. What other editors do you actively use? What other editors? I'm not sure. I mean, I use LinkPad a lot, right? You've seen my heavy usage of LinkPad on stream when we're tinkering with things or experimenting. LinkPad is pretty much one of my favorite ways of. I mean, Rider does have scratches, right? So you can create a scratch. Really great stream again. Good morning, Essa. I'm sorry. Didn't say hello. Yeah, Rider does have some tools for doing this sort of stuff, right? And it does have scratches, so you can actually create a scratch file and run that scratch file independently. So I can do what I'm doing in LinkPad inside of Rider. But again, I'm just used to having different tools, right? Just found out my local university has a defined benefit pension plan, e.g. traditional pension. Apparently it's sort of common. No wonder tuition costs more. Yeah. Traditional pension plan. You pay in and am I missing something there? So they build it into the tuition, the pension. So there's money set aside for you. Yeah. Yeah. That's why pension plans go away quickly. Once companies have to make some money back. Yeah. I'm going to pull up my ads message. What if it was? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. The button went weird on me. No worries. We're getting back to it anyway. So, okay, so yeah, this object. So we're using this object not only as an object on which to trigger domain events, right? And this is the main project primarily, but this is worth exploring in a very small scenario because we might go down the same path, right? But what's going to happen is now I can't read this from Entity Framework because now this won't read and write back and forth. So what you end up doing is creating. You have to specify configurations. But this is actually, again, this was recommended by Julie Lerman, right? I was actually watching a video by her. And what this does, the entity, I entity type configuration, T entity, where T entity is entity base, right? This needs to be abstract. And this, what this does is you define a protected abstract void configure impl entity type builder, the entity builder, and then you have to say builder.property p goes to p.id has field ID, right? What this does is tell Entity Framework, you're actually going to work on private members, right? Here's where you're going to actually get your data from and set your data to. So when it builds the object, it actually uses the private, right? So you can still do all the regular things you do in configuration, and then what we want to do is call configure impl builder. And in here now we create the account configuration the same way. Account configuration, but that will now inherit from entity-based configuration of account, right? So it will get configure impl, and we can now carry on the same thing, right? Builder property p goes to p dot name as field name, right? That you cannot use lambda expressions, you cannot use dot syntax, dot notation, etc. You have to use string. I'll finish it up because then it's complete as an example, and then we can talk about what it means. Okay. So what will happen is, in our context, we'd need to do here, to do this properly, you need to do this, right? So now it will apply the configurations. And this one will only get applied by virtue of being called from this. It won't get its own version. So every entity-based class would inherit from this abstract base, so that it adds these properties for it. So what this does now is means I cannot just get a database object and set the variables on it. Right? I have to call the methods to set it. So everything else is protected. I can't set the password on this now. I can get the password will be encrypted in the database, but I can no longer set it. There is no way of me changing that password in code, which means if someone writes some code that pulls this object out of the database, they have to use those methods, which means they have to trigger domain events to interact with it. But for the main project, this is a massive overhaul for what I've got so far, because I've got to pull it all out again, do all this for all those objects, and then reapply them all. So this is what I wanted to kind of highlight first this morning, because I forgot to do it yesterday. We got into some discussion yesterday. So I'll be interested to know what other people feel about this pattern, right? Because obviously we've looked at some clean code implementations, right? Yeah, there's a massive metallic sound in there originally. If we look at clean architecture, right, we find, where is he? Interesting that out of all the people who do clean architecture, Milan comes up sooner than some. That's interesting. Mehdi? What's his name? I just saw the video as well. He actually just released one. Dallas, we know. Jason Taylor, we know. Oh no, let's find this. We say ultimate clean architecture. Nope. Apparently more than one person claims they've got the ultimate clean architecture. We have found another one. So, have a look. So in our Dallas code, right? Look at the sample. Do we look at the infrastructure? Is where we'd find the data stuff, right? So, we have the DB context, right? We have the DB sets. Interesting. What is that? Oh. Set to IAM. We'll come back around on that. The main event dispatcher, he actually puts inside of his DB context and does it on save changes. So he doesn't do the interceptor method that we use. What is that? I haven't done that before. Is that actually a thing? So he's using... Okay. What is that? Okay. Is that an... Well, that's just a getter. Does Entity Framework know how to work with that so it knows how to interact with it? Huh. I learn things. This is good. Either way, what do these models look like, right? If we find to-do item, right, where are they? Those should be in core? No, he has a weird naming on this now. Infrastructure, it's not infrastructure. So Rav, welcome, that will create an account table. It's more particular, in my mind, it's more, I'm used to seeing get sets on DB sets and seeing complaints when you don't have DB set, get set, so that's where that comes from. To do item. Okay. I mean, I covered that before. I mean, basically, there's not much difference in terms of if you're familiar with an IDE, then go with the one you know. I mean, in terms of cost, Visual Studio is free. Visual Studio Community is free, and you can build solid software with it. Rider costs money. So, I mean, that's an influencing factor. If you're a developer on a budget. For me, I've spent years with JetBrains, so my annual fee, I think, is like $170 for everything. So I use them heavily and get my money's worth. Visual Studio, I used to have an MSDN subscription for, but that was $800 a year that I was not wanting to spend. I wasn't using it. Visual Studio Community, in the meantime, has, become free, and they changed up their licensing and all sorts. So yeah. Good thing about Rider is you can join to external codes. I mean, you can do that as long as you can reflect on. Do you mean go into the framework libraries and stuff? You can do that in Visual Studio. That's not a Rider specifically. It's just nicer. There is some nice behaviors in Rider. I like the IL viewer is in plain view as well, and you can see how it translates the C# in line. The IL viewer being there is nice. Oh, there's lots of little features. Anyway, let's So he doesn't worry about it, right? He doesn't worry about changing these to-do items. He's reliant upon the fact that, I'm not saying it's not nice. I'm just saying that you can do it. It's not a feature of Rider that's unique to Rider. It's just well implemented in Rider. Yeah. We have projects, and again, we have that's got a private setter. So let's go back to infrastructure. He doesn't do any specific configuration. Oh, he does. Yes, here he goes. Is required project. Right. But he doesn't do anything specific there. Let's have a look at Jason Taylor's stuff. Right. Jason Taylor's stuff is more what I base my my structure off of, right? We go to domain, entities, to-do list, or to-do item. Does not do any protection, right? So again, if you load this object out, you can change this, right? You can change these values and save back, because you're going to commit them into the repository, right? So again, I mean, I'm interested to know if, well, here we go. So this is someone's fork of, Amichai, Mountain Band. I don't like messing people's names up. It seems rude. So again, description type, subscription. So he's going more private entity. That's the value of an entity. Subscription, calendar. User, here we go. So he is making them private, but he's created a public constructor to set them initially. But they are private setters. But I'm pretty sure Entity Framework will not let you. So to Kanye's question earlier on about can I just not make them private setters? I tried that, and Entity Framework threw a bit of a fit, I believe. Is it in here? No, I did not. Must have done it in something else. But I want to say I tried that, so let's have a look at infrastructure, common, migrations, services, and daytime provider. Okay, where are you hiding the context then? Okay. Where do we have? Where's AppDB context specified then? In here. There we go. AppDB context. We have reminders. We have domain events. Hey! I wasn't completely off with making the outbox for domain events. Validation! Yay! I mean, I don't like the idea of this leading down into this, but ugh, I really don't like that. Why should the DB context know about the HTTP context? No, I don't like that mixing. I'm not a big fan of that. Why would your DB? So your DB context would have to know about HTTP context. So your your domain layer has ASP.NET Core HTTP in it. I mean, this is a person who has literally designed a ton of software. Works at Microsoft, believe is an applications architect at Microsoft. But I don't understand why you would do that. That seems to bleed the concerns, and now so let me ask, is it reasonable to expect your application will never have any interaction from anything but a website? So in the case of this application, right, would there be a service that needs this? I mean, in that case, this would be no, but I think that's what he's allowing for, right? He's saying, hey, if it's not... Yeah, he's saying it has to be set in that case. So, okay, is user waiting online is if that's set. So the HTTP context accessor is always there. Could you have services that reference... Well, we do in the other application, right? I have a service that references the same data layer, but it is not HTTP. I mean, ultimately, what this should be highlighting is the fact that there's no right way, because every one of these is doing it differently. Everyone has different challenges. So, what's the right way? Now, were I going full in domain-driven design, right? I've got both monitors set up now, so I can actually connect to chat in the window. How about this? What am I looking at specifically, Essa? Looking at the models. Right, it says, no, oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. Registration service, okay. I figured you wanted... Set registration service, add async. Registration. Anything in particular I'm looking at? Apologies event within the service. Right, okay, yeah, so... yeah, that's not... I mean, that's not necessarily wrong, I don't think. I think I actually do it. I think you can still publish domain events, like the domain service I have around what's it called? Registering a tenant, etc. That could potentially publish a domain, an event. I think that's okay. It's okay to publish events from the objects themselves when they change. It's okay to publish events from the actual domain components. And we do have some domain services, right, in the other application. So I don't have an issue with the domain, with the publishing. I think it's more in Amachai's sample. What confuses me there is this merging of these concepts. But regardless, getting back to it, right? Getting back to my original piece, I'd be interested to know what people's opinions are on this in general, right? This pattern, obviously, is one we've taken, right? Having these methods on here, I know that defaults is against having methods on objects that are going in and out of the database, right? But I think in that instance, what you'd end up with, okay, so to your point, Essa, if you get rid of all this and just make this about an object that comes in and out of the database, right, then you end up with a domain service that is the account domain service, or even the register account domain service, right? So that domain service goes and it's wrapped up as a service because it's going to create an account and then it's going to publish the event. So what you're relying upon there is the fact that the structure of the application is defined so that you don't need to go and say, hey, pull out an account and change the values. So you're relying upon the fact no one will ever do that. And this way is more guarded and a lot more configuration. But if you merge the concepts, it becomes more risky because then one of these things could change. It changes according to need. So I've got to decide, what am I writing? I like this method, this pattern. Now, the downside to this pattern is when I'm creating something, I don't have the ID, right? So I have to publish it with its identifier. So I end up, it's forcing me on one pattern to always have an identifier there. Right. So if you put it with the command, then you always kind of have a domain service for that scenario, right? And then the pattern is to create a new service or add a method on a service. I don't like the idea of massive services that do everything, though. So I'd feel more comfortable with, create account service, update account service. Just the word service is just repetitive there. And you're going to end up with hundreds across the course of things. So it's the balance. Where do you stop? So. Yeah. But for now, I'm not going to make these changes here, right? I am going to undo these things. This was not the purpose of changing this application to be that. It's more, let's talk about what it means to do that. And this was a good example because it's, again, that's the purpose of this project, right? I'll roll back. Okay. So yesterday when we left off, we had a migration, right? The problem is update database. How do you do that in here? Okay, I guess you do it that way. So now in our application layer, we should be able to get here and run, I suppose. Oh yeah, that was the issue. We're not going to worry about that right this second. Learning how to wire up fast endpoints with Swagger. I'll have to figure that out. We're getting 404 not found. Because I would imagine... Oh, there's WaterDB. I would imagine things are not quite wired up here. And I can see they're not. Okay, so we need to do builder.services.add fast endpoints. And down here, we need to do app.use fast endpoints. I'm going to change those properties. False. Actually, let's remove those profiles. Let's clean this up a little bit, right? We don't need these profiles. Be 7244. I've got Insomnia up on the other screen. And then we will give it another test. Okay, here we go. The endpoint should either override the configure method or decorate the class with the HTTP attribute. What did I not do? Did I write that endpoint incorrectly? I did. It's not a constructor that I want there. Public override configure. Post. All this healthier. It makes sense to create an event. Sorry, yeah, so I didn't see the comment. It makes sense to create an event at the point where the entity state changes. It also makes sense to create an event after the command. Yeah. Sorry, I did it. That's weighing on me a little bit because again, creating services around everything. Kind of again why I came to this today rather than going to the main app. Okay, so we should be able to post to API registration. Oh no. Contains authorization metadata, but a middleware was not found. So by default, fast endpoints requires authorization. We're not going to go for that level right this second. We're going to have to add that in and learn. So we can do allow anonymous. There we go. We have a name, an email, and a password. We don't have anything. I'm going to add to the repository. And return. So now we should be able to hit it again and get here. Yep, there we go. Yeah, 204 no content. That's fine. We don't want to tell people that we've already got that account, right? We should be able to open water drink water side of here. Right? And properties, download some driver files. Right, okay. There's our main, there's our tables, there's our accounts. There we go, there's our test. I think domain events should remain with entities. There is no need for domain services. There is no need for repositories. Using DB contests is enough in application services to this project. What do you think? Maybe let's remove the application services. We can do everything in the handle on the endpoints. For this project, you want to make it even simpler. I mean, there's a balance, right, of doing too much in terms of simplicity. Yeah. mean, most developers will develop it similar to what we've done right now, I think, in the modern world. I mean, new developers might end up putting a lot in the API layer. Hi, Thorolf. How you doing? I agree. But I'm not sure that putting everything in this layer for right now doesn't make a refactoring harder. So right now we're going for this is one big dumb service. This is similar to what people would write. If they were told to write, more layered architectures, this is similar to what you would write. So I don't know if there's any. I agree with. I mean, I don't know where we want to take this application in terms of domain, etc. We can explore that bit by bit. I want to put a good. I don't want to make decisions just for the sake of making decisions that are super simple that we can then refactor, because then it's really hard. Bored at work, and I want some company will try to finish my bug fix. Sorry. Sorry, you're bored. You're winding down right there. So, so yeah, so I kind of see what you're saying, like just move this stuff right up. The repository stuff, you want to just make it, get rid of repository, move all this straight up into this layer and just get a DB context in here and make it really dumb. And not even bother with this separation is the proposal there. I'm not considering it. I'm kind of contemplating what it means right this second to do that. And the value of doing it. I mean, if I had more people saying, hey, this is how I write software. No. I mean, we're not exactly slow here, right? No, I get it. I get the benefit there. We can just knock out code. Because we don't have any layers, we don't have any complexity. But if we do it that way, I guess it comes down to, if you're in the stream and you're watching and you're actually paying attention to what I'm doing here, how could this be useful, right? In terms of a lesson, or in terms of an education, or growing education, if you care. I get doing it that way, but I'm worried about the amount of time we're going to have to spend as I stream it and people come in, right? As I stream it and people come in, I'm going to have to keep explaining, don't do it this way. This is really bad. Don't do it this way. This is really bad. And I don't want to keep having to do that. Because then it's like, hey, wait until we refactor it. At least this way we've got some separation that allows us to kind of point to the right pieces, even if we've got a load of heavy code. Because this service is going to get bigger, right? This is not going to be one method. This is going to be everything. We're not doing CQRS here. We're not doing any domains, etc. We're just worrying about getting the behavior in there. So, which I think Depending on the separation, we make everything testable and changeable. Most people think like that. You can enlarge after making it work, can be refactored. Yeah. I think we're safe in this pattern right this second, of not being. We're not that terrible. It's not good if the application is going to grow, but it's not terrible and it's maintainable right this second. We are testing, but that's only purely because I don't want to completely lose track of them. Let's commit these changes. We're going to add that to the ignore. We don't want anyone. We don't want that getting into the repository. Eunice, thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome. Do you have any questions, thoughts, opinions? More than welcome to share. Updated to use anonymous. We're not going to worry about logging in at this point. Anonymous access for posting accounts. Added newbie to learning about C#. Nice. Well, I'm not a newbie. I've been doing this for quite a while. But I do want the stream to be accessible to you as well as, more advanced developers. So if you do have questions, if you want me to cover something, if you have, feel free to ask, right? The stream is not about its productivity. This project is shared. It is available here in a repository. So you're more than welcome to go check that out if you want to. All the code we do on stream, all the code will be available. The discussion is there. There is a Discord as well, linked in the panels below. And yeah, feel free. You moved from React.js. Okay, that's quite a difference. That's endpoints. What made you move, out of curiosity? Okay, so we have a working application right now, right? We have tests that pass, he says, with great confidence. Yes. Probably should make the GitHub action for that soon. I think we should continue like this. Those who have ideas in different subjects should share them, of course, so that we can think and learn new things. Right, and that's the point, right? The point of this application is not one of, here's the right way to do it. It's one of, here's a way to do it. What do you think? And we can use it to demonstrate different principles, practices, etc. along the way. We can refer to it, and it's a shared project that's available to all. The main project that I work on is a little bit more intimidating, so that would be a little harder to go into. But at least we can experiment and practice on this one, and importantly gain shared understanding of the domain that we're working in. Okay. So, coming in February, by the way, I did order the Elgato teleprompter, so I can have chat and the camera in the same place. That may make for a very weird experience, I don't know, but we'll see how that goes. I'm going to have to rejig my desk again. I keep finding an environment that works, and then find I've got to move things around a little bit more, etc. But yeah, that will be coming next month, which will make the stream equipment set up a little easier, because I won't have to have extra monitors and stuff for chat. Okay. So let's go to the board, right? So I should be able to register a new account, capture name, email, password. Email is unique and should reject an account if registering the same email, right? We do reject. We can worry about what reject means later. We don't have to make every single decision here, but we can do that, right? So we're done with that one. Okay. So the next one up is this, right? We get into a new world. Hey Apex, how you doing? We get into the world of, and this is where this could go. This could derail us for quite a while, but we'll see. We get into a world of, do we put a UI on this thing now? Right? And if so, what UI do we put on it? If we don't, we just API endpoint login. How do we deal with login? Right? We don't have any concept of JWT here. I don't do this sort of stuff, so this is kind of new to me. I'd have to learn how to even achieve that. Again, normally what I do is I call third parties for authentication, or in traditional applications set sessions. But we're building an API right this second. We've not built an actual UI. So if we do an API, we have to return a token and have that token pass up, etc. So, yeah, we are in our first branch, I suppose, of decision making, real decision making. So the concept right now is what I'm going to do is I'm going to track the initial stories in this tool, right? Once the application gets to a point where the structure is generally in place, like we've made some of these earlier decisions and there's something to look at and build, then I will move whatever's remaining, if there's anything remaining in my small backlog. I'll remove whatever's remaining into GitHub, and people are welcome to try and tackle those things. The goal of this project is not one of necessary success. It is of review, of shared understanding. So if you pick up a card, you will go to work on it, that card will be reviewed on stream. And we will, decide as a group, yep, we want to accept this card. No, we don't like this. We don't like this. We like this. Oh, that's a new thing. We can learn from that, right? It's not about being critical or being difficult. It's about helping people learn and understand and also go through that process, because not everybody gets to go through the process of peer review, right? So it's a useful tool, as we go. So that will be the goal. With that said, logging into the application, let me do some, what do we actually need? Because we don't have any authentication layers in here. We've not added any components in here. What do we need to do to get the ability to actually log into the application? And that's a genuine question, because I haven't actually answered that one. When's the last time I've actually done anything remotely like this? It's been a few years. But again, I don't have the luxury of leaning on Auth0 at this point, right? Because if I lean on Auth0, then I make everyone have to lean on Auth0 or on a variant of that technology. And that passes down the challenge. So we have to implement this ourselves in a very basic way. Could you repeat the question? It sounded interesting, but only half heard. Heard half. Authentication, right? So we don't have anything in place. We've obviously allowed ourselves to set a password. But we don't have any of the components in place. So ideally, because we've got an API, we should be able to say, hey, log in, and here's a token back. But we have none of that structure whatsoever, right? I'm sure, but we shouldn't be writing it ourselves. We shouldn't be writing it ourselves if it's planning to be not platform as. Absolutely not. Yeah, we should not be writing this ourselves. It's not about right, but the point is, it's not about right. It's about productive at this point, right? Yeah, this isn't this isn't the right way to do this. I'm not suggesting this is the right way to do this. You shouldn't roll your own auth. Absolutely not. Right? We have to kind of make a balance here so that we can log into the application and represent a user. We can then go back and I can demonstrate implementing an existing provider into the application, but not commit those pieces. Because if I commit that now, everyone has to go sign up for an Auth0 account or whatever we sign up, right? And all those pieces are in place, but you all have to go and sign up for it if you want to check this code out. I don't feel you should have to. I think you should be able to get the flow and be able to log into the application and work, right? So we just need to return a basic token that is mapped somewhere. So maybe we provide a login endpoint, and that login endpoint just stores a token with an expiration date in a table and returns that token, and you pass that up with every request, and that's authenticated, right? Might be the quickest way of doing it right this second, right? But ultimately, yeah, we should be clear when we're working on this project that this is not the right way to do this. This is a really insecure way of doing this, right? But it does allow everybody to check out the code and allow everybody to test with it and tinker with it and play without worrying about signing up for something. So, I'm not going to go PRs right this second. I'm going to do everything against the main branch. And then what we'll do is we'll create a dev branch when we're good to actually do pull requests. And then people can do PRs against those things if they want to. And again, I want to be clear. There's no guarantee that a pull request will be accepted because it will be reviewed upon the stream. Right? There will never be a situation where they just go, yeah, that's fine, merge it. Well, I should preface that with, unless it is hey, there's a massive security hole here, and we really shouldn't have this code set out there. So yeah, that might be a considered immediate PR, but for the most part, all PRs would be reviewed on stream anyway. So should we just go with the API endpoint for this? Now in the story, I've obviously explained, that I should be represented with a login screen that provides me the ability to enter my email password on a successful login. I should be taken to my dashboard. So I obviously had the idea that a UI would exist at this point. But is that the most practical way to proceed with this? Do we want to stick a UI on there? Do we want to agree upon a UI? Does it matter at this point if we just do the token-based stuff? Because we can have clients later. And again, it's the sort of thing where you can develop your own client against the API. And we could see a Blazor client, an Angular client, a React client, right? You could see all those things. So I'm kind of talking myself into the API perspective. Doing a simple login endpoint and giving a session ID sounds like a nice and simple solution. Personally, I'm more interested in that than the UI. Okay. So I'm down for just API. I'm leaning towards that because I think it's the more practical way to move this forward. We don't have to worry about UI. We'll return a simple token of some form that's generated with the time or whatever, and then has an expiration. Unless if you've got some mad UI gold. No, UI is not my favorite place to be, right? If it's not obvious from the streamer already, my favorite place to be is definitely in the back-end code and definitely thinking about challenges like how do we get productive and how do we move things forward, right? My specialities as such are probably more around there. I'm a generalist, but way stronger on that back-end side than I am on that front end. I haven't touched Angular in years, so I think, yeah, we'll do an API key method for right now. We'll just create a string off the date time and or whatever on the username, and then just hash it, and return that as a token. That token has to be passed up, and something obscure, but not really that secure. So let's create a login, create a post. Again, if you don't agree with this, right, the beauty of this project is go ahead and change it, make a PR about it, right, afterwards. I would try not to do that until we get at least some more pieces in, but it is a public project and it is there for you guys if you want to do that. Okay, I'm not going to mess around with some of this. So the reason I do it this way, by the way, and again, this is totally open for discussion, so I do apologize that some of my style does creep in. These parameter objects, right, are only ever used in this object. So why create another folder with login requests and have that out there that sits there? You can do this. It works fine. It's self-contained. You don't need to concern yourself with it. And yeah. So I kind of like this style. And this will return a string. Right? Why doesn't that? Something I'm missing here. Why doesn't it actually force me? Yeah, that starts nice. Whenever I write C#, I end up in too many files, land too fast. Right, it's kind of, if you have objects that are all dependent upon each other, right, you're never going to create them, you're never going to use them separately. Or you don't want to create that pattern of using them separately. Why not bundle them together? So, yeah, I don't like, login request, login response, etc. necessarily. I'd have parameters and response maybe, or result in here. The public anyway. Really, Twitch. I had a notification from Twitch and it's like, hey, viewers on your stream can get discounts on subs until January 2nd. January 18th, Twitch. .NET user JWTs create. What's that, Saurav? Okay. Wanna .NET user JWTs create CD source API. Interesting. I mean, we don't necessarily need that, but manage JSON web token development with .NET in development. Okay, so we create JWTs that way. I know there's a way of doing it. I'm just wondering if there's much. Maybe we do. Let's go the simple route for now, like really simple route, and then we can actually do a stream dedicated to refactoring this to implement JWTs. Maybe, right? We can use a grid, yeah. Again, it just needs to be a token. We could just, SHA-256 some random data, right? It just needs to be a generalized token that is valid for a certain amount of time, right? And then we can always come back and do a stream on, hey, here's applying JWTs, right? So let's say you've got a really terrible implementation. Oh, look, we've got a really terrible implementation. Here's how you apply JWTs. Now, later on, we can say, here's how you apply another provider. We can grow upon that and do specific streams around those components. So, yeah, thank you, Sarav. So that is very helpful. Interesting to know, where does that put that back? What does that exactly do? Okay. There you go. That's what it does. In development, it creates the authentication token. So let's do it that way. Let's make that dedicated stream. Do a really simple implementation and come back. Yeah. So what I'm looking for here is fast endpoints does not seem to want to implement any overrides. Yeah, because it's public override. Now they have execute async and handle async, right? And I believe there is a difference in which one performs which way. They use handle async here. Fast endpoints also supports the strategy simply by setting the response DTO type of the endpoints generic parameter to the desired union type and overriding the execute async handler. So union type returning. What's that? Important. Yeah. A 400-line PR to review. It's been a while since I got to review anything. Ooh, joy. 400 lines is better than 400 files. Okay, so we override execute async. Right? And what we're going to do here is we're going to yeah, your ad is about to start. So again, if you're watching and you are stuck behind an ad, please let me know. I will happily pause if you're actually following the content. I don't want anyone excluded from the content. But ads are kind of helpful for getting people into the stream. So that running the ads removes pre-rolls. So people come into the stream and they don't have an ad to welcome them. So what we need to do here is take username, take email and password, get token, right? The token should have, no, we're not going to do JWT, should have an expiration date. Right? So yes, we're going to roll our own auth. We are not going to do this for a permanent solution. We're going to do this for an interim solution so that we can move forward with the application and everyone can do, everyone can see it and start building on it if they want to. And that way, we can come back and reflect. So, I'm going to create a login service. And I'm going to have in here constructor, and we're going to have what are we going to have in here? We're going to have an application DB context. IDB context factory. Do we want an I account repository? Probably. Go with that for right this second. Just telling me I can make it a primary constructor. Yeah, that works. So this isn't going to work, right? This needs to return a token. But we're actually going to make it, we're going to be a little better, right? We're going to know, right? We're going to use the result library. Forbidden, right? Or not password is valid. Still not going to work. So here, because we have that, right, we can take the string in, and now we should have a hash comparison on the two things, right? So that's as simple as it gets, right? Because this will be a string. This will implicitly treat it as a string and take the, again, like we did, we modified it so that this would take that string in, return it. So they will compare. You can also, I also did it this way, right? You can do that password.compare. So and do password.compare password, comma, account.password. Right. So if it's not, okay. So now we need to generate a token. Store in DB. Because that DB is going to be our only way of knowing a valid session, essentially, right? Right this second. Because we're not going to encode anything into a JWT at this point. We're just going to create a random. We could do a GUID, right? It doesn't really matter what we do here. And then we'll return that as part of this, so we should be able to log in. So in data, let's do models, login session, public, int ID, public, int account ID. Yep, that'll work. Yeah. There we go. Expires. Why did you offer me expires and then change? There you go. Do it that way. We now need to do a migration for that one. So Entity Framework call, add migration, add login session. Morning, Amal. How you doing? That's data. I'll produce the API. If that works, this might not build. Yeah, we're going to fix the build errors first. Return OK. Oh, success. Oh, today drink water. Yes. The main project. So earlier on in the stream, I kind of covered the main project. I need to do some major pulling apart of things to do something I want to do, which means that the main project is a little bit. That's going to be a little dull today. So what I want to do is do that off stream. Do those refactorings off stream before progressing there. So, and I do want to do 2 days a week on this project. So my apologies if this is not the most fun project. We have got this working, right? So today we've got the migration working on the account, so you can create an account. It uses Sqlite, so it will generate a DB. You can just run the migration. And what we're doing now is a very, very simple login with the aim of coming around on a different stream and saying, hey, here's how you might implement JWT against this instead of this terrible, terrible, terrible login system. And then later on again, coming around and saying, what if you wanted to implement an auth provider? What does that look like? So deliberately doing this to be helpful for people in the future. And obviously, as you know, this is going to go into the shared GitHub anyway. So let's get this. So the problem here is that this is failing. Typed results.ok. Path.from result. What don't you like there? Oh yeah, I remember this. Results.ok. Oh. No? Just read the message. Can I convert from... I'm going to have to do... That fixes the bug. I don't need to worry about too much about it. It's only the right thing right a second. I just need to worry about the migration. On migration, add login session. It hurts to call it that, by the way. Oh, it's not a DB contact. Public DB set login session. Login. Felling trees. So yeah, if you're new to the stream, if you're just joining, feel free to ask questions. You do not have to. This is not necessarily right now about me showing how to do something. This is me doing something for the benefit of going through that later. This isn't one of my strong areas in general anyway. So, you know, I expect I'll learn as much as everybody else later. I do like this tooling. Unable to create the context of, yeah, exception, unable to resolve service for type, or attempting to activate. Okay, what am I missing there then? A migration. Oh, that should be data. Yeah, that should be data. Application DB contact. Yeah, this is only in Rider. Add login session. Afternoon, Mr. Jones. How you doing? The error code while accessing hosting services continue with the application. The endpoint logging post should either override the configure method or no, that's just a warning though. That's not a. That doesn't matter. Right, that's just saying, hey, post API login. That's just that. Allow anonymous. That one definitely needs to allow anonymous. Oh. Well, thanks. Good. Good to hear. What am I missing here? Instagram with call. Drop database. Interesting. Add migration. Add logging session. Migrations in data are project is API. Okay, so that warning was triggering an error. Because that was a warning, it wasn't an error. We should have a migration now, and then we should be able to do run migrate update database. There we go. So now our database has login sessions and accounts. There's our account. Migrations might actually be manageable within Rider. It's actually kind of nice. Database console, so I can do select star on accounts. I mean, those tools are in Visual Studio. They are kind of clunky. Yeah, okay. So, the challenge with doing this, right? Now, is login a concern of account? Or is login its own repository? Right? I think it's an account thing, right? As far as repositories go. But how do we want to implement this? Let's implement this in the quickest and most dumb way possible. Okay, so we're going to do public login session get, and that's going to be nullable, right? Email using var context equals factory create DB context return context dot login sessions dot turn from a in context dot accounts join ls in, yeah, that works, where a.email equals select ls dot first the default. That's really dumb, right? Public void add login session. That works. This is not smart by any stretch of the imagination. It is quick, right? So, to S's point earlier on, right, there was some things we're adding in layers where we probably could get away with just doing all this in the API layer. But there's a certain level of challenge to doing it that way because the code is then in a really, really bad place and we're building an application that will be really hard to refactor and will lose people later on. Trying to even do that. At least here I can point to a method and say, oh, this shouldn't belong in here. Let's move this out to this responsibility. Let's move this out here. So that will be where that goes later. So I'm going to use this to pull the members up. So I'm going to pull get login session and add login session up into the account repository. Again, I'm making the decision there that they are not separate concerns. Account owns login, essentially. I could put this into account, right? I could put a login method on the account service. But let's make login service its own thing right this second and see where we go with that, right? So what we need to do first is var session equals account repository dot get login session, and this will take the account.email. Right? If session is not null, right? I'm hoping people are keeping track of the potential bugs here. Return result dot success session dot token. No, we're gonna have to do something else if the session is null. Right, so account repository. So we need var session new session equals new login session. Okay, token will be GUID dot new GUID dot toString. The account ID will be our account.id. The created will be date time UTC now. Expiration add hours 1, that'll work. And revoked is null anyway, so we'll do that. Our migration should have identified that this does have an ID and set it to be an auto increment, right? So if you put ID on there, the migration is going to assume it's auto increment anyway. And then we'll do account repository, add login session, new session, and then we'll return new session.token. There we go. Okay. So if we try and log in and we've got an account, and I'm not unit testing this, by the way, because I kind of want to get this piece in. We can write some tests for it afterwards. We go and try and get the login by email. If we have an account, then if we have an account, then we'll check the password, right? We'll validate the password. Sorry, my brain was like, we're checking the password. We'll return forbidden. So if the password matches, we'll go and we'll say, hey, do we actually have a session? Right? And then if we do, then we'll return that token. And otherwise, we'll create a new session and return that token. So from the login side of things, we now just need to eject our login service, right? And then we need to say, yeah, that'll do. Kind of. What don't you like today? I'm going to have issues with this every single time, aren't I? Cannot convert expression. Task of iResult. Nope, it's not that one. Can I convert expression to results? I change that to handle, I think. Does that change that behavior? If we did that one, oh, we just did task there. This is a pain in the backside. Results, okay, my response, not found, problem details, right? That's that structure. Return type results, okay, so we can do, we don't actually need to do it that way. We can do if result dot, if not a success, return type results dot add request. Oh, it just wants that, doesn't it? So if I now do, if we do it this way, it's going to suggest a condensed version. And that's going to be okay with a result dot type. That's that. Yeah. Now it's going to condense them, convert to that operator. That does not read very nicely, but again, I've got to remember, right? We're kind of rapidly prototyping here. We're not writing the final application, right? This is not going to be the end of this process. So worrying about quirks, like, okay, what should I do there? What's the right way of handling this? I'm still learning my way around this fast endpoints library, so I'm gonna find some horrible things happening with behaviors here as I go. That's okay. Right? What I should be able to do now is if we run this and we try rename login. Let's try login. Gotta keep an eye on that time as well. So we're gonna post to here, login, and we're gonna post JSON content. Email is test@test.com. Password is Bob. Right? We should get success. Couldn't connect to server. Oh. Unable to resolve so. Okay. Builder.services.add scoped login service. That would help. That looks healthier. Should be able to do that. There's our token. Right? So our database now. And select star from login sessions. We have an account. We have a token. Expiration. Right? It expires an hour from now. If we hit that endpoint again, we should get the exact same GUID. Right? We shouldn't get different GUIDs. If we delete the session, is that just truncating? Yes. Don't protect me from myself. On our data, so we should get a different GUID now. There you go. So that's our token, right? So what would come next? Well, now we need to make sure we're authenticating, right? That's going to be the hard part because we're actually going to have to write in that authentication layer ourselves. I'm not quite sure how to do that, to be quite honest. I know we could use pipeline. We can use ASP.NET pipeline to do auth. Let's have a bit of a quick read. Custom authentication. This is going to yield quite a lot of results. That are going to be like, why? Custom authentication, add authentication. Yeah. Custom policy-based authentication. Because what we need to do is say, okay, well, we've got a token. Go look up that in login sessions and see if it's expired so that we can still use authorize, right? Because at the end of the day, what we need is to be able to say, you know, if we add a new endpoint, so for logging, not to be confused with actual logging, to be confused with logging my water consumption, which is what this is for. We add the post endpoint, right? This endpoint should not be anonymous, right? So we want to authorize this. So endpoint post.parameters. Yeah, that'll do. Wow, it's now filling out pretty much everything for me. That's awesome. So, but here we want to do authorize, right?
I don't know what the access control. Nope. There is the permissions, right? So we can check to see if we have permissions, or we can do that sort of stuff. So there's a little bit to learn here, right? Around claims, right? What claims I have, what permissions I have, etc. Roles. Yeah, so we just do it all within here. There must be something like is authenticated or something like that. Actually, by default, by default is authorized. You have to specify allow anonymous on fast endpoint. So by default, it's going to authorize. So we need to implement a layer that is the authorization. And what that's going to look like, I'm not entirely sure, but I would imagine it's going to be something like handlers, custom authentication handler of some form in the pipeline, and this will probably inject our account repository, and we'll get from the headers there's some pattern in here, and then we'll check to see if from the headers it knows what I'm going for, right? We'll pull that out, and then nice. It thinks it knows what I want. Do something here so that we can actually authorize the user. There is a pipeline method that we can inject this stuff into and get that working. What that means is that then later on, when we come around to doing this properly, the structure can be in place for doing this. We can still validate that things are authorized and all those things can still exist, and we don't have to change any of the application to have a real authentication provider applied later. Login should allow anonymous. Registration should allow anonymous. Those are correct. But then logging water consumption should not allow anonymous. You should be an authenticated user, and we should be able to find out who you are. Right. So we'll have to set up a user profile, inject all those things, and then that way, when we do get to swap it out for a real one, it should just work. Well, we shouldn't have to worry too much. Obviously, things like login, etc., go away. But then the rest of it should just work and know who we are. So yeah, that is drink water so far. Let me remove that and remove that. Yes, we do not need to be there. Go back. Yes. Go back. Yes. This and this do not need to be there. Delete. Delete. Virtues aren't tracked by Git, so that's why that didn't show then. So let's add the migration. That needs to be excluded. That needs to be excluded. Those are add migration for login sessions. That one. Add login session, service, and update account repository. User project spotlight. What is that? Oh, one of my redeems. I have not had a redemption in here in a long time. You're going to pull that with 4 minutes left on the stream? I don't know. You're testing the rewards. I should highlight those more. All right. I do want to do more regarding rewards for subscribers and things like that. I have contemplated doing kind of maybe chats for subs, or there are some channels in the Discord that are available to. Hold on, let me. There's tools for this, and I always forget how to use them. We don't use them often. So there are. I've added some emotes recently. I do want to provide more to the stream. So if you have ideas on that sort of stuff, let me know. Reward prosecute. That's the one. That one. Good. There you go. You can have the points back. But yeah, I forgot that I actually left that active. So the purpose of that is to be able to, if you have a project that you want to show off, for me to go and focus and look at that, I think is that one. I think Dota's claimed that before, to highlight. These days I don't so much mind a diversion to look at other people's stuff, primarily. That's perfectly fine. I kind of like that review period. Yeah, if there's other things that I can do in the stream, just let me know. Allow basic login, and get session, provide token. There's a bug in there, by the way, if anyone noticed. Interested to see if you do. So, there is Discord. You're more than welcome to join the Discord to continue on conversation about this or other projects, about your personal projects that you want to have, or you want to ask questions about. That's always there. I'm more than happy to. Let's see. Do I have? Yeah. That's my GitHub. That's the stream's GitHub. This project is up there. Other projects that we've done in the past on the stream. So I've been going as a streamer for 5 years this May, but only recently repicked this back up with any frequency. But yeah, I think we've had a productive day today. Unfortunately, I only get to stream for a couple of hours, so I'm gonna have to finish up here. I now have this monitor, so I can actually listen and trade. So yeah, I think we'll end here for today. Let's see, is White Panther still streaming? No, I'm not reading White Panther because she shows clips, and my clips are dull as dishwater, and it just looks really sad. So, who else could we go to? I don't have anybody else to go to. We could go to TickTick, but TickTick is a little bit different than me. Huh. I'm not sure who to actually rate today. I mean, we could go to TickTick. I don't think I see anybody else that I know that I trust rating into. If there's no recommendations, it's for me not having any.
Clips. Good day, Mr. Anhon. How are you doing? Hey, welcome. Anyone doing streams on DevOps or Kubernetes? I haven't seen any. TickTick is the one I would raid over to because I know TickTick. I will caution going from my stream where I don't swear or whatever. He can be quite sweary, very sweary. He's the only other streamer I know that's doing any app development. Yeah, clips. Well, I raided White Panther last week, and the clip that came up, I don't know how old it was, but it's just me, like, droning on about something. I'm like, who clipped that? Like, at least catch me saying something embarrassing or something weird, but, you know, just, oh. I'm just talking at my normal Eeyore voice. Yeah. I don't see anyone doing DevOps stuff. Yeah, DevOps isn't even live. This is unforgivable. Oh well. Okay. So let's go raid TickTick. Again, caution. He's way more sweary and a little bit raunchy at times, but he is building a platform for for monetization for streamers. So yeah. He's doing cool stuff. He's got his own startup and yeah, he's doing that. So I'll send you over there. I will be back again tomorrow. We will be back on main project tomorrow. I do need to make some progress on that this evening though to be able to do that. If there's anything in the meantime, please feel free to join the Discord. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, follow, subscribe. Or like, subscribe. Yeah, comments are good as well if you have any comments on the content. It seems like people watch about 3 minutes of the YouTube videos on average. So take care. Have a great rest of your day. I will see you again tomorrow. Thank you all. Bye.